Thank you very much, Eric. Well, I want to give you the example of the impact that these policies are having on a particular university, my university, Aston, but also something about the impact on my profession, which is engineering. So Aston is a small university. We have about 10,000 students studying professional degrees in business, engineering, life sciences, and language. A high proportion, about 40% of our UK undergraduates, come from the lowest socioeconomic groups, and they're often the first generation of their families to come to university. And as part of our commitment to social mobility, we believe it's essential to give these students the best possible employability skills, including experience of working in a diverse international environment. As a result, we enable the transformation of bright young people from less advantaged backgrounds into some of the UK's most employable graduates, beating Oxbridge in the Sunday Times league tables this year for graduate employability and regularly in the top 10 for employability in the UK, and a leading supplier of graduates to blue-chip companies such as IBM and Jaguar Land Rover. The international experience we provide for about 25% of our students comes from them taking international placements. But for many others, it comes from working in the international community on our campus. And that's why we believe having a high proportion of international students from a wide range of countries is an important part of the education we provide. Around 22% of our students are from outside the European Union, against a UK average of 11%. That puts us in the top 10% of UK universities for the proportion of international students we have. So clearly we're in a sensitive position in relation to the impact of the immigration changes. Our international students come from over 130 countries, with the largest proportions from China, India, Nigeria, Canada, Hong Kong, and Saudi Arabia, and with rapidly growing groups from other Asian countries, including Thailand, Vietnam, and Korea, and also from Africa. We have a very diverse international staff, and the quality of our academic staff and the benefits of a truly international community of scholars come from having this truly international group of staff. We have about 30% of our academics from outside the UK, half of those from outside the European Union, and that makes us third or fourth in terms of UK universities, in terms of the proportion of international academic staff. We have recognised that we have risks in this strategy, and over the last 5 years, we have had a strategy in place to reduce our dependence on international students coming to the UK, and also to reduce our dependence on China. And we've been building up links with more of the BRIC countries and the other fast-growing economies. We've been developing partnerships with overseas universities to do joint degrees on a 2 years there, 2 years here, 3 years there, 1 year here basis with places like Vietnam and Malaysia. But this, nevertheless, international students still want to come, and they are a very important source of overseas income for us. So what has the impact of these immigration policy changes been? Well, the headline for us has been a dramatic reduction in overseas student applications and admissions, leading to a significant reduction in university income. So if I compare 2011-12 with 2010-11, the biggest impact on our applications, as you've already heard, was on applications from India, with a 39% decline and a 29% decline from Nigeria. That resulted in admissions from India about 30% down. And overall, we admitted some 200 less overseas students than we had planned to. In the current academic year, that impact of that is 3 million less income, and on a small university with a turnover of 120, that's quite a significant impact on our income. But 3 million lost in fees to us leads, in addition to something like double that, to Birmingham's local economy in terms of accommodation, food, clothing, enjoyment. And some of these overseas students are big spenders, as I notice on degree day from the proliferation of exceedingly expensive shoes that pass me by. So why is this happening? Well, as Eric has mentioned, the first reason is perception. Applicants and our overseas agents tell us about a big perception issue. The university is seen as no longer welcoming overseas students, whereas other English-speaking nations are working hard to be visibly welcoming. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, USA are out to find those students who might have come to us and are being successful. The high cost of visas is an additional frustration and simply reinforces the unwelcoming message. The impact of perception is reflected in the fall we saw in MBA numbers, overseas MBA numbers last year, which fell from 120 to 60, despite the fact that MBA students earn more than $20,000 per annum on graduating, and so would not be restricted in terms of post-study work in the UK. We've now made that absolutely clear on our website, and things are improving this year. But that is just a perception issue, that they're not welcome. But the biggest impact has been post-study, the changes in post-study work visas, and that's particularly impacted students from countries like India, Pakistan, Vietnam. They can get loans in their home countries to cover their fees, but if they can't work for at least 2 or 3 years in the UK on UK salaries to start paying them back, they really can't afford to come. And these are graduates in subjects we need: science, engineering, and I'll come back to that, and business, who will contribute to our economy, as we've heard, if they stay. They'll probably earn more than 20k in their first jobs, but we can't guarantee that to them, and they can't take the risk that they might not. Canada and Australia, by contrast, are offering them scholarships and work visas, recognizing the importance of these highly capable and highly motivated individuals. Let me tell you about a particular challenge we have in pharmacy, which also affects students who are already here. Our pharmacy students do an M.Pharm over 4 years, and they then have to do a pre-registration year in relatively low-paid jobs before they become fully qualified pharmacists in the UK's systems. In terms of admissions, our overseas pharmacy numbers have fallen from an average of 15 a year to 1, and our one-year course for overseas pharmacists has fallen from 50 to 1. The overseas pharmacy students who are currently here are feeling very bitter indeed. The rules have changed since they arrived. They came paying $15,000 a year for a 4-year degree, so £60,000 in fees alone, expecting to stay in the UK for a year to work and complete their registration as professional pharmacists. Now they will be unable to do that. The removal of the Tier 1 post-study work visa is devastating for them, and it feels like a breach of contract with the UK. Let me give you a quote from one of them. If a pre-registration working visa is denied for M.Pharm students, the M.Pharm degree becomes a useless, non-transferable asset. The student, in more or less crude terms, has paid a fortune for a worthless piece of paper. These are highly intelligent, motivated people, and that's how they feel about us. The prestigious and internationally recognized UK professional pharmacy qualification that they had saved and taken loans for is denied to them, and they feel the UK has let them down. On the staff side, overseas applications for posts are falling. We've had 2 outstanding academics from India decide not to come because of the costs of visas for their families. They see the points-based system as unwelcoming. And the exceptional talent route has had very poor take-up. We've been inquiring with our potential candidates about this, and overseas staff are really quite nervous about this. They think there will be an impact on their careers if they are turned down under the exceptional talent route, because it will be an indication that the UK academies don't think they're good enough. And of course we have the interesting challenge that advertising professorial posts with Job Centre Plus leads to some bizarre and unfortunately distracting applications. Let me finish though by saying something about engineering. I'm an engineer, and I think engineering is critical to the future of this country. In 2010, 26% of undergraduate engineering degrees were obtained by non-EU students in this country. That's up from 18% in 2004 and compares to an average across all courses of 9%. 61% of postgraduate engineering degrees went to non-EU students, up from 44% in 2004, compared to an average of 38% across all subjects. 48% of engineering PhDs were obtained by non-EU students, up from 43%, and compared to an average across all courses of 29%. We are highly dependent on overseas students to keep our engineering courses running and solvent, particularly, as Eric has mentioned, the postgraduate courses. But actually the issue is very much bigger than that. Engineering UK reported in November 2011 that in the next 5 to 10 years, UK engineering and manufacturing industry needs 2.2 million new engineering employees. Not all degrees, but at a range of levels. But that's covering for 600,000 retirements and the growth in infrastructure investment and revitalising manufacturing. 20,000 people graduate in engineering in the UK each year. 26% of them are non-EU graduates. 40% of our UK engineering graduates don't go into engineering. That leaves us about 8,000 engineering graduates to support the industry if we don't allow overseas graduates to stay. That's a very small number compared to a requirement of 220,000 new employees per year, or even just the 60,000 retirements per year. The Canadians and the Americans have done exactly the same sums, and they have recognized that they must encourage those bright Indian students and others to come, to study, to stay, to work, to drive their economies. We are doing exactly the opposite. As this engineering example shows, this policy approach is in danger of ensuring we lose the battle for talent that is critical to the UK's economic future. So let me just summarize. This is having a serious impact at an uncertain time on my university finances and an impact on our local economy. But even more importantly, it's having a reputational impact with students and future leaders from rapidly developing economies in Asia. And perhaps most important, we have fast approaching a real challenge for the UK's engineering and manufacturing ambitions in growing our own economy. Thank you very much.